So welcome back for the live stream. We are on the second part of the talk tonight, and I'm happy to give my microphone to Mathieu for that.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. TypeParis was born from a desire to offer different paths for type design education and to try to build a strong and diverse community around it. In that regard, I think Veronika is definitely an inspiration for us, and I'm very happy and honored to have her with us today. Thank you, Veronika. So Veronika Burian is a type designer, of course. She's also a true European. She's from Prague, Czech Republic. She studied in Munich, in Germany. She worked as an industrial designer in Vienna, Austria, and in Milan, Italy. She graduated from the MA Typeface Design in Reading, UK. She's been in Boulder, USA for a while, and she now lives in Catalonia, Spain, if I'm correct. In 2006, together with Jose Scaglione, she co-founded Type Together, leading independent and cosmopolitan type foundry that specializes in high-quality text typeface. They designed Mayola, Abril, Carmina, Brie, Adil, and many other. Their collection is way too large for me to mention them all. They're now a core team of 7 people spread all across the world. Type Together is also a much larger galaxy of other designers with whom they collaborate on a regular basis. I believe at least 4 of them are in the room tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe more, who knows? They've released many typefaces from other designers, such as Belli, Alverata, Capitolium 2, or Garalda. Type Together also play a strong and active role in education, as Veronika is demonstrating by being here with us today. And last but not least, Veronika is a founding member of the Alphabet Network, which is here to support and promote the work of all women in type and typography. It is one of the most important, exciting, and interesting places to write about and learn about type today. Please join me in welcoming Veronika Burian.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's great. So Mathieu, so I can skip about 10 slides, which is perfect, because I thought perhaps some of you won't know, so I'm just gonna, this is Czech Republic, where I'm originally from. I love type, as you know. I was in Reading, where I met this guy, which is Jose, which was about 14 years ago. You see my hair changed a little bit, went a bit grayer. And we found the Type Together a few years back. And now we have quite a big team, and also our kind of language and script support increased. And here you see us a bit scratching heads in our meetings. So, but what I wanted to talk a little bit about custom typography today, that it's not really just, there are various ways of creating a custom type or typography. It's not always about doing a whole new typeface from scratch. You can quite often start with an existing font or a logo. But, you know, be careful, not just because you take a font does not mean it's a logo. I'm gonna go rather quickly because everybody will be tired and I don't wanna hold you up too much. This is, so here the Pomera is the logo, which originally the designer, they selected VAG rounded. But there you go, this is VAG rounded, and actually the logo is adjusted. So all to say that you can't just take a typeface, set the name of the company, and expect it to work as a coherent logotype. Then quite often, again, starting with a logo, we were approached by Puerto Rico TV. That was their old logo, their existing logo. They were very keen on keeping kind of that sort of feel, and also this sort of, you know, that round thing there. So we thought, okay, at least, you know, we give it some structure, we give it some cleanness, and we convinced them that actually they could do with a custom typeface developed out of these particular letters. And they liked it so much that in the end they decided to change the whole kind of corporate identity, and now they're using just a logo, just a typeface as their main logo. And you can give, because it was only one style, yeah. I think they did not have more budget for anything else. But to give them a little bit more flexibility, you see the changes in some of the letters, yeah. So with a little trick, with just a few key characters, you can create a slightly different texture and feel. And this is how it looks. The funny shape, that's Puerto Rico. That was the decision of the main designer. But they still have this kind of round thing, but not with this weird sausage. Sorry. I hope nobody from them is actually listening to this now. Yes, yeah, I know, I just realized. The designer, they also introduced this as a kind of signage. These are just mock-ups, but the idea was to use that there. And we also did a whole set of icons, because it's TV, right? So there's weather channel. You need a lot of icons. And actually, by accident, the sans serif is one of our typefaces as well. Soleil by Wolfgang Homola. It was a nice kind of fast project. Then there are quite often slightly bigger, more intensive projects where the client kind of comes, they like an existing typeface, usually from, let's say, if they come to us, they like one of ours, but it does not quite fit. Yeah? And here, this is the old design of La Voz de Almeria in Spain. And obviously, they needed a redesign, right? So Cases and Associates in Barcelona, they approached us. And they were quite keen on using our Abril, the display, and here's the text. But they felt like it's too sweet, or it doesn't have the kind of punch that the typeface, the newspaper, the Almeria newspaper, needed for their kind of audience. So what we said, and as well, budget not great. So what you can do is to create something from the existing typeface. And here, what happened was, actually I have some more details. So it's kind of, you see the difference, the display and the text, and you see that the Almeria one was really, we squashed it a bit more. There are a few more details, like you see that the serifs changed to give it a bit more general punch. And we liked it so much, and we retained our copyrights, that we made a whole big family out of it with 4 different widths. And this is how it looks. So they also actually started to use Adele Sans in combination, and you know, this is not our spacing of the titling. Oops, sorry, going back. This is very, very tight. But newspapers usually really like that, so you have to go with it. And here it is, the news. However, the website, well, they kind of missed on updating that. And what do you think is the main, actually, content here? I mean, what's the story? What's the story of today? Yeah. So, so really, they should go and clean up. Also, sometimes we are asked to add either another script, or in this case, it's more of a language support. In this case, it was Adele. The Langara College in Vancouver licensed Adele quite a few years back, and for that kind of communications and website and the like. But Langara, so that's in Vancouver, you know, Canada, and it's original Musqueam, or kind of North Indian tribes area. So I'm gonna play you a little clip, because the Langara College, or actually generally Canada or British Columbia, they are trying to reconnect with that part of the history, reconnect, and also kind of improve, support the local culture. And that also means the language. There were only, like about 15 years ago, there were only like 12 actual fluent speakers of the languages. Now it's about 300. It seems like very little, but it's quite important for them. So here, this clip, if I can play.
Musqueam First Nations is very, very honored and pleased to be joining Langara in this naming ceremony today. As Langara College is located on the traditional territory of the Musqueam First Nation, this event both acknowledges and reflects the respect and strength of the relationship between Langara College and the Musqueam people. This ceremony marks the first time a BC First Nations has given an Indigenous name to a public post-secondary institution. I am pleased to learn that the name Senewa Leila.
So Senewa Leila, yeah, that's the name for this part. And you see, they did not have Adele in that language, so they asked us to expand. And we work together with the Musqueam bands, which is like kind of the local tribe. That was the first part to set the logo in Halkomelem, which is the language of these people. I mean, it's kind of a group of languages, which is part of the Silesian languages of this North Pacific West in North America. And originally, the Native American tribes, they used oral traditions and symbols, and even weaving patterns. So like if you imagine the Scottish tartans, yeah, so something very similar. By the weaving pattern of those things they are wearing, those kind of coats, they could recognize each other from which tribe they are, rather than actual inscriptions. So this kind of system they're using is the NAPA, the North American Phonetic Alphabet. And it's a system of phonetic notation originally developed by European and American linguists and anthropologists to be able to represent their sounds. It was kind of developed in about 1880. So we worked with them to expand Adele, and that's how it looks like. you see like a very, very different texture, right? That was very interesting. Okay, the next two, and I'm doing really fast, that's great. There are two projects I wanted to go perhaps a little bit more in depth. One is a newspaper as well, Clarín, which is the biggest Argentinian newspaper. This is from 2007, where, yeah, they're using Whitney, which is the main headline font. Generally a good, obviously, great font, whatever. But for Spanish, Spanish has a lot of A's. And it just felt that really the A is too wide. It creates an unpleasant texture overall. So, but okay, they continued using that. This is in 2012, but they started using Adele more in the kind of football, sporty area. And with time, though, Adele started to gain more space. So it was used as a kind of accent, so-called accent font in a newspaper for these kind of little bits and pieces here and there. And at some point they thought, okay, we need to change Whitney. We need to have a different headline font. So because they were using Adele, they thought, okay, let's try Adele Sans, which is this one here. But you see that the structure does not quite feel right. It's a bit too open, a bit too soft, a bit, And also it was kind of in planning to use it for the supplements inside the paper. So then they came back with meta serif. This was just like a version again of a bit of a tryout. And they really liked the feel of it, the kind of punch of it. So we thought, okay, no, we have to do something here. Also, so this is meta serif down here. Yeah. They were doing more experiments and they started to see quite a few problems, like actually the OpenG creates a strange texture, it had generally too much unevenness along the X side. And Meta was actually way too close for comfort to Adele, which already gained too much presence in the in the newspaper. So they did not really, they could not really go back. So what we agreed on, that we will develop for them a new typeface, a new headline typeface that will work within the kind of Adele parameters, let's say. And so we did various ideas, and after the first selection, we kind of ended up here in the middle, aiming for quite a low contrast titling font. And in the end, it was two styles. The regular, the kind of is more of a lighter headline, but here you see it in conjunction with Adele, and you see that, sure, it's its own, let's say, personality, but within the palette, within the typographic palette, it works quite well. And here you have the new and old comparison. So it wasn't just the typeface, the headline face they changed, but obviously also the kind of some reorganization of the layout. And I would say it works quite well. Here's some examples. And here you have together with the Sans. Adele Sans. Here as well, the lighter version. Well, and because we really liked it, and we kept the rights to develop it further, we thought, okay, let's make a font family out of this. we decided to develop a whole project. So on the left you have the two styles that we developed for them, and on the top we created another master. And from here we went and kind of expanded this further in styles, added an italic, which probably is a bit more playful and a bit more kind of curvy than a newspaper would allow. But I really like italics. Jose, he hates it, so it's perfect. I get to do all the italics, and I get to play around a little bit with different features. And at that same time, we were kind of developing, redesigning, actually not us, but we had an agency redesign our website, and we thought, okay, so if not a foundry, who else will actually make a proper typeface for their website, like a custom typeface for their website for the text? So we thought, perfect, we'll create out of the more titling version of Portada a text version for text, really kind of small body text setting on screen. And here you see a bit of the development at the bottom. You see the proportions change. I was talking a lot today with the students that if they want something for smaller sizes or for screen, you need more space. Yeah, you need to be quite generous. And also the contrast changes so that it would hold up on screen. And that's how it is, how it kind of ended up to be. We have the 4 styles for the text and more of a kind of a tight link. And over the years, we have been talking a lot with various designers, users of typefaces, and what came up over and over again is, I want icons. I need icons. So we thought, okay, let's give you icons. And we have 2 different versions. The top one, the kind of more simple one, is for small size. I think below 18 pixels, something like that. And the one which is a bit more detailed is for above that. Okay. Wake up. I'm already at the last one. I'm super fast. I don't know what's going on. Probably I'm hungry, so. About 2 years ago, we were contracted by Twinkle, which is a UK-based educational company that, or a company that produces educational material for kids, for teachers, for parents who are interested, for various age groups, but more or less from kind of early on, 3, 4 to 12. And as pretty much everybody in the UK, or probably not just UK, in the kind of educational sector, was using Sassoon Sans. Yeah? And because Sassoon Sans, that's, I have later on a comparison, was like the typeface for kids. But they also realized that they really needed a better kind of identity, a better distinguishedness, we're the Americans here, to distinguish their brand from other competitors, let's say. Also, they needed a broader language support because they were expanding, so not just England, but all of Europe. And with, you know, new media, apps, web, blah, 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 their licensing needs changed. And in the end, really, it was cheaper for them to have a custom font made than trying to get Sassoon Sans fixed. So what happened was that we gave them a few options, and we work with really only a few letters at the beginning. And we kind of moved from, let's say, restraint to something a bit more expressive. had a few very good meetings and briefings with them, and kind of stuck with these two at the beginning and started to develop those further, including a few more uppercases. So here you have Sassoon at the bottom and Twinkle at the top. So the kind of the letter shape, the underlying letter shape or the structure sort of had to follow to some extent what was there already. You won't believe how conservative teachers are. It was really, really hard quite often to just press them a bit further and say, come on, we can do something more interesting that will still be acceptable. And they were like, I don't know. So, okay. But, however, I think the shapes of Twinkle ended up being actually very personal enough, but kind of generally very lively. And also, of course, with children children who start to learn, you need disambiguation of letters. So the more you can help in that, the better. Meaning that they know pretty much right away, okay, this is an A, this is a Q. They won't mistake it for something else. So we enhanced these features. And sure, like I said, the design did not happen in a vacuum. It was not our kind of fancy idea of how a font for children should look like, but we had a lot of feedback from the teachers and from Twinkle themselves. So certain things like the K, like this K, yeah. We had another alternate version, but the teachers were very, very keen on having this one. So again, what we did a little bit is to create alternate characters that would be more in tune. No, differently. Children, even quite young children today, they're exposed to typography, right? They see typography everywhere. So for them, it's not so unusual to see more of a typographic style of letters. Yeah. And since this typeface was to cater to there's quite a big age group from about 4, 5 to 12, we said that with some of these key letters alternates, we can create a different texture that will make the text, let's say, a bit more adult for the other kids. And we also created enough styles for them to work on a typographical layout level. Yeah, so you can they can prioritize messages. They can really create a hierarchy with these styles, which they could not before, because I think Sassoon had only just 1 or 2 styles. And we cover the whole kind of Latin A, so-called Latin A, North, Eastern, South, West, Europe. And that's how it looks. And this is how they're using it, so in these kind of situations. The word space that it's so big, that's deliberate. That's something they were very keen on in this particular setting. Or like this. And then actually, they really liked it. So about a year ago, yeah, they came back and they said that they wanted, or they wanted to be able to set these kind of writing samples also in their font, in Twinkle. So this is connected writing, yeah, but very specific, okay? Nothing easy. So you have a looped, unlooped, no lead in, lead in. And then some of the letters had to be very, very specific, yeah? These in particular. There was no way we could say, hang on, Perhaps not a good idea. But okay. They really fears that the teachers would object way too much. So this is kind of how we started. So we needed to stay in tune with the writing conventions. Yeah? So we have this different E that connects really, really low, so it could connect with the rest. And also a bit more of a curvy V. This was the basic connection scheme. So you can imagine, just imagine, all the connections, 26 by 26. And we had to have some exceptions built in, especially for like the O or the V. So depending on where they were connecting along the baseline, were they connecting here along the baseline to go up? Yeah, because what they really wanted to happen was that it would feel like one stroke. It might sound very easy, but it's actually quite hard to do if you don't know the combinations, if you can't control exactly the sequence of letters. So yeah, we had to create various exceptions for the E. You see that it changes or going up. And I think this is just one part of all the alternates, because of course there are all the accented letters. You need to do that as well. But thanks to glyphs, and this is how it looks, pretty much. Oh yeah, which one was really, really difficult was the R. And, or here, yeah. It's this kind of funny sort of wave. But there was no way for us to do something else. We tried, we suggested, alternate, no way. Like, forget it. So it ended up, yeah, being a bit funny. Merci. Are you gonna grill me now like the other guys as well? I hope not.
Thank you, Veronika. That was a very interesting, in-depth look at your custom work that we rarely get to see, so very interesting. I also, while I'm on stage, want to give Veronika and all the international guests from TypeParis past and future a big shout out. They come from abroad, they spend the whole day teaching and reviewing the attendees' work, and then they're still up for a great presentation every Tuesday night. So I know it's been a long day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions? Your presentation was too clear. There's no stone left unturned.
They're just too tired.
I have some questions, but okay, that's going to be hard to articulate, but I'll try. I think you demonstrate very well with how you approach custom type, how typefaces are not set in stone once they're released, and they are more in a flexible space. And Adele was something at when it was released, but it can become something else, and new style, new language, the DNA of the typeface can exist in a lot of parameters. How do you make that clear to your clients? I'm very impressed at how much people come to you and say, we like your typeface. but we would like it a little bit different. I would think that a lot of people would say, huh, I like this typeface, but it's not right, so I'm going to pick another one. Sorry.
We try to be open and approachable. Sometimes it also happens that they come, we don't have the right choice for them, so we help them perhaps to go somewhere else as well. And I think one of our main, let's say, strengths is that we are quite flexible. Just through our structure, I'm not sure if it was clear, but we don't have a physical studio. We don't have a studio with like type together big on there. We have each of us is kind of either in a little studio somewhere else or at home or whatever. So we kind of learned to work very flexibly. And I don't know, perhaps our fonts are so convincing that they, I don't know, to be honest, I'm not sure. But we really try to, if somebody comes, we try to make it happen. Yeah.
More question? Yes.
Hi, thank you for your day. Yeah, and I see you work a lot of type design and also you customize the logo type, and I'm curious, what do you think the difference between customize the logo type for a brand and to designing a font, a typeface? What do you think the difference between the design thinking or the methodology? Do they have difference behind? Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's time. I mean, you spend quite a few months doing a typeface. No, but the main thing is that with a logo, you know the sequence of letters exactly. Yeah, it's like the same with lettering. You know exactly what letter follows the next, so you can adapt that combination of letters. With a typeface, you don't. You create a system that will work in any kind of combination of letters. And like I was saying, with a logo type, it's not, quite often you just need to adapt, even if it's just the spacing, or if it's a bit of the weight, or, you know, or some little detail, to make it into a recognizable logo. I'm not sure, was that a question or was, no? You looked like, what is she talking about?
More or less, yeah. I was thinking it's how to say, because when we design a typeface, we want to create a system, and maybe sometimes we try to follow the rules a bit more than really breaking the rules. But maybe in logo type, you try to break the rules more. So is there any?
Yeah, sure. But that relates to it what I said. Yeah, because in a logo type, of course, you can break any kind of rules you want, pretty much, if it fits the brand, if it's appropriate. But in a typeface, especially in a text face, you will have a hard time making that work. Yeah, I mean, you have to think with type. You have to think about repetition, yeah, because you have a high rate of repetition, and let's say you make some crazy A, I don't know, some weird serif shaped serif or so. Might look great as one A, but then put it into text and you will see, ooh, yeah, it's popping up too much, and that's a difference. Perhaps also in approach and the thinking, and a logo type is just much faster. And sorry, With a typeface, you don't, even if you think you have a brief, you believe you've designed it for something particular, you will be surprised how people actually use it, and how they deform it, and how they just use it in very different contexts. With the logo, that won't really happen. Yeah, you have that more under control. Okay, was that more?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes, question?
Thank you, Veronika, for this presentation. I must say that I'm impressed how you are able to address some market and specialties like multi-script, typeface, serif screen typefaces, a typeface for children, typeface for business software, and with a non-physical organization. So my question is, how do you keep it together? Because my second point is, to my knowledge, from what I saw in the foundry, it's the most. Your in-use section is the best documented I've seen so far.
Sorry.
The way you document the in-use section is,
right,
for me, is the best I've seen. So how do you make it? Do you have special people on that?
Yes, well, sort of. I mean, with the type in use, we were actually from the very beginning really, really keen on keeping that or kind of expanding that, because it was clear to me that people who are gonna use type, they will want to see application. They will have a better understanding of how the typeface can work. Yeah, if they see it, and even if it's not exactly the same what they need, but at least they will see how it works. You know, we have for now the last 4 years. Yeah. We had Elena Veguillas, who is our kind of communication person, and she's keeping track of various type of news. Sometimes we get submissions, or she really looks around and tries to find places that have been used. She then contacts the people. So we really like doing that. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard for new fonts. It's really hard to get results, but with time we try to do that. And then your other question was
and
about
the first part is how
we
do you
keep it together.
Yeah.
Well, it was just me and Jose for a long time, and actually the first 2 years we did not see each other. It was me at that time. I was in Boulder in the US, and he was in Argentina. But I think with Jose, what happened is that we managed to develop a kind of a symbiotic relationship, yeah, and so we kind of know how we think each other, and we kind of we can swap ideas, and we can swap our work, and I totally trust him, he trusts me. So I think one of the main issues, also what you were saying with the clients, is trust. Yeah, I from the start I always was very keen on focusing on trust, and that's why perhaps we keep it together as well in a way. And with our other guys, I mean, perhaps that's a question for Roxanne. I don't know, she's here somewhere. She works for us, so she might have some input on, on how her experience is with it. But sure, it's not everything perfect, and we are trying to improve things, but we speak every day, pretty much.
Any question? I have a question for you. It's about education, the incentive program. Could you say a few words about that? We have 2 people who won or who've been selected. I don't know the words.
Actually, yeah, 2 of
Yes,
them are here.
who
yes,
you
for
are?
sure.
Yes? So it's 2 people here. Could you?
There's Roxanne and there's Quentin.
3? No, 3 people?
No, 2.
2 people.
2.
Incentive program. Okay?
So
could you
what,
explain a little
yeah,
bit?
sure.
Could you perhaps you can discuss to explain together? Come here and say how it works.
Okay. A few years back, we thought, because both Jose and me, we were involved in student work, kind of workshops, teaching, and we thought, okay, perhaps it's time to support current students, and we will have the opportunity to work with them on their projects and have a bit more of an influence over that project, where it's going, rather than receiving submissions at the very end of their kind of studies. So we started this typeface incentive program, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and we got quite a few submissions from various schools, and well, Roxanne with Belly, you have it in your thing, one, let's say. And we give 2,500 as a kind of starting money for them to support, perhaps to buy some software or to keep them a month or two alive, so they can continue actually working on the typeface. Because what happens quite often is that the students, they are all enthusiastic and then life happens. So you need to eat, you need to have a roof over your head, and you start to work somewhere, of course. And then kind of your typeface sort of, you know, kind of slowly goes down the drawer and even further down. So this incentive was really meant to help with that. Sure, I mean, we can't afford, you know, to do this for years and years for that particular person every month, but also we give them a contract with Type Together, a release contract, and we give a lot of feedback. With Roxanne, we worked a lot, and I think she learned quite a lot during the process. But it's not that we decide what's going to happen with this typeface. We give direction, but ultimately it's the designer's decision. Yeah. So we try not to be, you know, the kind of boss from the top. And we had one this year, some Bojidar from Catalonia won. I hope that Quentin, you know, he's a bit late. So that happens as well. But we have you scheduled for the end of the year. And yeah. Next year, we'll, it's usually in February that we accept submissions. So, you know, feel free.
Any more questions? Yes? It's over. So we have to say goodbye to the rest of the world watching us. Could you do that, Mathieu?
Goodbye, rest of the world. Thank you, Veronika.